Hello, this is Mark Wildman of Wildman Athletica here with
Summer Huntington of Flow Shala and steel mace vinyasa.
And today we are going to demonstrate a steel mace vinyasa technique which helps people get better at their heavy club flat foot squat.
The steel mace vinyasa conditioning drill I'll be demonstrating is a warrior 2 lunge into skandasana. Some people call it a Cossack squat, others call it attacker's pose. It's essentially half of a flat-footed squat where you're really opening up the hip on the one side and opening up the adductors on the opposite side.
Whenever we want to get better at something, we can break it down into smaller pieces and train whatever is limiting us by itself. This drill helps you isolate one hip or the other and train them so that when you add them back up, your overall squat pattern gets better. Our flat foot heavy club squat, it's sometimes known as our rock bottom squat because our tailbone is trying to get all the way down until it touches the grass. 2 thumbs point towards the sky, stack your hands on top of each other, pick up the club. Order position, where your elbow is matters a lot. Get down. In the beginning, most people are not able to get down, down, down with their heels flat on the ground. Oftentimes in the beginning, people's spine is rounded, their hips are lifted up, their feet are turned out, and everything is collapsed in. We can all get better at our squat because the better our squat, the better everything in our life generally is. This is not an extreme range of movement. This is a perfectly normal human range of movement. We can always design drills to help us get better at this one particular thing. One of the primary ways that we can help ourselves get better at the flat foot squat is to get down, lean back, 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 and add a front press to the drill. This changes the load on our hips, our ankles, and our knees to allow people to get better and better at getting lower. Front press, pull, stand. Squat, push, pull, stand.
I'll be demonstrating an open hip conditioning drill, which is actually 2 yoga postures, the warrior 2 transitioning into skandasana. I'm adding a little bit of load so that what happens is my musculature in my hips adapt to the load and I can incrementally increase the range of motion in my hips. Mark will be demonstrating a flat foot squat so that you can see some similarities of these 2 postures. So first I'll find my setup, and before Mark gets started, you'll observe we're in a warrior 2 lunge position. And as I transition my load or the mace into 2 hands, I can press my mace out to the 2-handed flag, and Mark is coming into his squat. Notice he's on 2 feet, I'm on 1. So as you start this drill, generally your range of motion won't be that deep. So you can start by hip hinging, pressing the mace out to 2-handed flag, pulling the mace to prayer position, and externally rotating the front leg to land in warrior 2. Notice my mace is in a modified side flag. As I advance the movement, I can come into full side flag. So again, I bring the mace into prayer position, center it in front of my body, come into my Cossack squat or skandasana, and then return back to the open hip posture, warrior 2. As I start to perform this a bit more quickly and more dynamically, I can add my power breath, so exhaling on the load phase of each position. My warrior 2 gets an exhale, my skandasana gets an exhale, arms are straight, shoulders are packed, crown to coccyx alignment. A common misalignment is to lift the back heel when entering skandasana. It's much more beneficial to keep the heel down and perform a more shallow Cossack squat so that over time you can start increasing the range of motion in the outside hip.
You'll notice with the heavy club, the heavier the weight, the more stable the base needs to be. Eventually you can do what she's doing with a heavy club, but it takes a lot of training to get there. So in the beginning, we break this up. Heavy club, closed hip, feet pointed straight ahead. We work on adding small amounts of complexity but going up in weight. With steel mace vinyasa, you work on the footwork and you use a lighter weight so that you can do much more complex movements.
You'll notice there's several joints activating as you move from the warrior 2 into the skandasana. The nice thing about training with a light load is that your ankle muscles, your knee muscles, and your hip muscles, which are smaller muscles, they're not your prime movers, they're smaller stabilizing muscles. They get the opportunity to bear load in several different ranges of motion in open hip conditioning. So the result is you train that with a light weight and it allows you to reach greater range of motion in your ball and socket hip joints, which then translates into the heavy club.
We are always training our tendons, our ligaments, not just our primary big muscles. If you go to the gym and you do bench press or you do machines, you tend to be training your big muscle groups in flat flat lines. Unfortunately, the world is not flat lines. It's all uneven surfaces. Everything requires rotation, and everything is some type of load on one side of your body. If you do gym training, then you should still be doing training like this at least 2 to 4 days a week for the rest of your life. All these different things can complement each other, but each one has its own specific goals and its own specific strategy.
We are wrapping up a series here at Orcas Island, which is one of the sites for our 5-day training intensives. We implement these tools in a waved pattern in our seminars, in our workshops, and in our retreats. You don't necessarily need to have experience with steel mace to be good at clubs, nor do you need to have experience with heavy clubs to be good at steel mace vinyasa. We introduce all of the apparatus at our seminars, and people wave through it, moving through different implements so that they can refine their skill and build and acquire new skills.
We are trying to show people how all of these things are the same so they can understand what and how to practice.